Hello and welcome to Daily Politics, reaching you from Trust TV here in Abuja. This is a program where we discuss politics, policy and governance. My name is Suleiman. Since yesterday afternoon, the whole country has been flooded with the news that the head of Nigeria's Treasury, the serving Accountant General of the Federation, AGF, Ahmed Idris, has been arrested for alleged involvement in fraud and money laundering worth 80 billion naira. Even as of today, he is still in detention with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Efcc. The Accountant General was arrested on Monday in Kano State and was immediately moved to Abuja last night. That's EFCC spokesperson Wilson Uwajeren confirmed the arrest in a statement. He said the funds were allegedly laundered through investments in Kano and Abuja, investments like in real estate, fake consultancy firms, and other illegal activities using agents, family members, and close associates. President Muhammadu Buhari appointed Idris as Accountant General on June 25, 2015. The position became vacant at the time after the former Accountant General, Jonah Otunla, left office on June 12, 2015. Buhari reappointed Idris again for a second four-year term in June 2019. Even though amid criticisms from labor leaders and groups who said that the Accountant General should have retired after turning 60. It will be recalled that the former Accountant General of the Federation and immediate predecessor of Idris, Mr. Jonah Otunla, and 8 others were also arraigned in court over allegations of money laundering and diversion of 2 billion naira from the account of the Office of the National Security Advisor. They are charged to court by the same EFCC. So tonight we ask, how does one person even steal 80 billion naira? What does it mean for Nigeria to have the Accountant General of the Federation involved in fraud, even if it is allegedly of this scale? Above all, what does this case say about the anti-corruption agenda of this government? With me in the studio to discuss this issue is Malam Yusuf Zango. He is presently consulting editor for Daily Trust, but former editor-in-chief of the National News Agency of Nigeria, NAN. Also with me is Dr. Tanko Yudusa, former chairman, IPAC. You're both welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
But before we proceed, we'll take a short break. When we return, we'll be right here for you. Stay with us as well. Welcome back. This is Daily Politics on Trust TV, and we're discussing the allegations of corruption against, well, the now suspended Accountant General of the Federation, Ahmed Idris. With me are 2 Nigerians who are familiar with such issues, at least because they have seen it again and again. So let me start from you. As a politician, as somebody in the opposition, what does it mean to have a sitting, Accountant General of the Federation? You see, this is different from former Accountant General or former this or former that, right? This is person who is occupying the office of Accountant General of the Federation. What does it mean for Nigeria to have that person detained over allegations of fraud of this scale?
Well, quite honestly, in order not to politicize the matter, even though a lot of us will have been querying the issue of Mr. President giving a pardon to some other 2 governors who have been allegedly or actually been confirmed by the court to have been involved in corruption, and they have been jailed, but they have been pardoned. And then it put a question mark to the anti-corruption war. There's no way you can justify, you can only give kudos to the federal government or EFCC for taking this bold decision. Even it is for him to rejuvenate the kind of anti-corruption war that's been waged. I was shocked. I thought it was one of those what we call it, those social media pranks.
Yes.
That was coming up that Accountant General of Federation, and then the humongous sum of money, 80 billion for one person. Oh my goodness. It's unbelievable. But and then from what I read in the papers, the EFCC said they have made concerted effort to invite him to come and defend himself on the presumed allegations, as they were. But they said that he was actually playing them until when they confirmed that they said he has traveled, then they put a track on him, and then they actually nabbed him in Kano. Okay, now in that regard, it will only show you that the EFCC, at its where, is top of its game. They've been monitoring the activities of government officials, whether they are doing right or wrongly. They have had the scope on them, and then they are trying to give a warning signal to all serving officers that if they are thinking that they are spending government money without due process and accountability, they can easily be arrested and dealt with. The only thing that one would even say is that it is hoped that the right investigation will be done to a point that nobody will have been seen that been easily picked at against whether he has done right or wrong, so that it will not be a wrong decision to have arrested him, and at the end of the court will now release him based on some technicalities. And that, of course, will set back the hands of the clock backwards. So I want to urge that the proper investigation should be done in such a way, and then you should keep the public fully informed about this process, so that people will go along with them as regard to this particular level of fraud that's already been published.
Very interesting. Many of the issues you raised, you know, the humongous amount involved, you know, the fact that a lot of people thought it's social media pranks, you know, and so on, and why it's important for this case to see itself out in court as everyone would expect. But even before we get there, Marlon Zango, when last do you see that, you know, a sitting official in government of this level being involved in a corruption case of this extent?
Actually, his own is to me is a very unique case. Essentially, as a Counter General of the Federation, he was not supposed. He was just like custodian of the money the government has and disburses when asked to. But how did he get that amount? So that's the new thing about it. So, but if he can be bold enough, if the allegations are proven and they turn to be right, if he can be bold enough to have siphoned this amount of money, huge sum of money, it means there are many like him within. Well, they may not have come out, but I think it raises a very big question of what kind of public servants do we have within the government.
Interesting. Thank you. So, Dr. Tanko, another thing to look at on this issue is the fact that it's one person that we're talking about. Usually corruption cases, for example, that of the former accountant of general that is in court now, is 8 of them, you know. Usually corruption cases in Nigeria will include at least several people, you know, this person and 2 others, that person, some accomplices, you know. But in this case, you know, is he alone that is being arrested, or at least that we are aware of in public now?
Definitely.
So how is it possible to have just one person in such a case of this magnitude rather than several other accomplices, as you might expect?
I was a civil servant and I was chartered accountant in the ministry, so I was in that particular same accountant general office. So
in the same office we're talking about.
Yes,
interesting.
So if you are to talk about fraud being perpetrated in this huge amount. Obviously, he's not alone. He has directors of finance within the Accountant General's office. They run a complete system. They have admin, and then they have other offices who are in charge of knowing fully well about the amount that is already there. They have the account admin. They have every system already in that department. And so therefore, this money, no matter how, there must be memo that will be generated, because what I heard was that it was a fake consultancy.
Yes.
And so before you can give a consultancy to anybody, a panel must have been seated to find out from the submission of both different groups who must have wanted to be a consultant, and they must have verified their account, verified where they exist, what did they do based on what they are asking them to do. So those ones must have conspired in that regard to have even approved each of those particular agency for them to be giving money. Then even as at that, before it reaches to the finance department and then money will be disbursed to that particular office, one person is not involved in this situation. It cannot be possible. And besides, many of us are even questioning, what is actually the money meant for? Where was that money kept? Where was it meant for? Why the federal government is struggling so hard sometimes to borrow money to pay salaries? 80 billion is somewhere. From where? And people are hungry, looking for food to eat. 80 billion somewhere. Where was it for? What was it for? Who gave it? How was it appropriated? Was it in the appropriation bill that we had in the budget and all? If it was meant for a particular purpose, why was it not used for that particular purpose? Is the amount of money attached to a ministry or to a MDG or what? So there is a lot of details that need to be known with regard to that particular sum of money. And here, I must say, it is interesting that the system of corruption in this country has gone very far. In fact, you may be amazed to know that the money itself being given was appropriated through the back door from some place or from some people, and then in a way it's being kept in that regard, and then conniving with the Accountant General, if proven so, that's okay, this money is being kept in your kitty, we will find a way of dealing with it in way to take it. So corruption has a kind of a syndicated way of money. There's so much money, slush money around in this particular system that you and I don't know about.
That's interesting.
As an accountant, I can tell you.
Thank you. That's because the Accountant General's office is more or less like, it's not even the treasury, because they don't have vaults where they keep money in their office, you know. Yeah. It's just, it's an office for adding figures together, for making sure that figures add up. They don't execute projects of federal government, right? Yeah. You know, they are not Minister of Works or Minister of Transport or so what opportunities
that was the point I wanted to make.
Okay.
It's just amazing because if this had happened, we would say maybe Ministry of Works, we could say maybe it would have been a contract,
yes,
a housing contract, road contract. Maybe the Ministry of Transportation would say, well, we are building railways all over. It could have been, but I think the Accountant General Office is just the custodian of the government fund. This is the memo.
On paper, actually.
On paper. And that's why they even created TSA. Even the money that the government is supposed to receive, they say, no, nobody should collect it cash. You who is supposed to pay the government, go and pay to the bank, and it goes there. So how over time 80 billion? And how did he manage to collect this and nobody knew about it until now? It's actually a little bit wonderful. So I think we have so many questions which need to be answered. And at the end of it, actually, I'm sorry, maybe I'm jumping to conclusion, that it's beyond this arrest. Because the whole government system, if it can happen in Accountant General's office, then the whole system of the financial system needs to be looked at by the government.
Certainly. Thank you. Which takes us to the question of the structure of that office. Because government, you would expect that each office will have some other office that oversees it, or that, you know, sort of serves as a kind of accountability for that office. So interestingly, as someone who worked in the office of the Accountant General, who do they report to? Who is responsible for ensuring that that office itself is held accountable?
Yeah, like I said, it's a complete office that works as an entity of its own. The idea of that probably what would be using money from, I can tell you there are so many things that they can use money for.
Okay.
When it comes about issue of consultancy, it could be in terms of consulting, how do we have a management system of how we pay salary, how do we have a management system of how we pay contractors, how we have a management system of how to deal with money that are being managed that comes into the country and all of those ones, how do we manage of expenditure. There are so many vast areas that the Accountant General Office deal with because they are the one that give approval. When they get the approval from the Federal Ministry of Finance, they disburse this particular money according to what is budgeted for in the system. So therefore, they have a lot to do. But what is more interesting is that there are check and balances in the system itself.
Yes.
Just like as Accountant General of Office provide officers that goes to different ministries and government agencies, they also provide the same kind of check and balances for themselves, just like the police. Do you know that police too have a internal police that check the police?
Interesting.
They do have it. So also the Accountant General of Federation have accountants who checkmate as regard to expenditures of the Accountant General's office.
Interesting.
Any kobo that goes out, there's an audit department and audit and query department that deals with checking of expenditures, what was expended or what came into the Accountant General Office and how was it used for. Was it used based on the instant laws that were provided? If not, they will query the Accountant General Office itself. These are staff of the Accountant General, but they provide a particular check and balances. So therefore, the system itself has almost everything that is needed to check the processes. And quite honestly, if it is done well, there is no way certain things will go unnoticed. That I can assure you.
Well, if
so
it
there
is
may
done
be
well,
a collaboration somewhere.
If it is done well, this case is still at the level of allegation.
Yes, that's why I say.
Nigerians understand that, but this is not allegations of 10 naira. It's not allegation of 18 naira,
Yes.
or it's allegation of 80 billion naira.
Yes.
It's a serious allegation.
Yes.
The FCC cannot go to the market on this level of allegation just because they want to make noise. Or they must, at least Nigerians would expect them to have something. And even if they don't, or even if it turns out to be something else, it's still a warning to the country about, accountability systems with the government. So it raises the question of these internal checks and balances that you are talking about. Where were they for this kind of thing to have happened?
Now, the truth about it is this. The truth about it is that
Yes.
information of this nature is not gotten in the thin air. Somebody somewhere is not happy with either the process of how his own share was given to him or not given to him at all. Or somebody who has conscience is actually thinking about the country that, look, how can this kind of thing happen? So instead of him taking the internal mechanism to deal with the matter, and he knows that may not see the light of the day, he now decided to come out with it in the area where it will be exposed. So therefore, the information came in, was exposed within the circle. Within the system. Don't forget, files are being carried. Even the smallest officer in the academic office can expose the office.
Interesting. So I was going to ask you this question, actually. As an editor, you've seen stories of corruption again and again and again and again. Do you think this is a whistleblowing thing?
No, I'm just surprised. All the explanation, much as I agree with you, it could have been just, but 80 billion, it wouldn't be over just a small, just short time. It must have been going on for that. I come back to my earlier statement. The checks and balances within the financial system, government financial system, is flawed. Now, even at the end of it, how much report did we have from the Auditor General's office?
Exactly. About
and that's definitely when they come, the Auditor General most of the time, apart from looking at your assets, their major target, even in the individual ministries and departments, ministry departments and agencies, they go to the accounts and see how much do you collect, how did you disburse it. That's the first point before they go to check about your assets, your movable assets, and all those kind of things. So this thing must have been happening over a period.
Yes.
80 billion naira. It didn't just start yesterday or in the last year. So I think it's beyond the surface. There must be, and much more work needs to be done.
Thank you.
To get to the root of this issue.
Thank you. But that also raises the role that the Ministry of Finance should play, or has played, or has not played, as the case may be. Because today we hear that the former has been suspended by the Ministry of Finance. You know? So what's the relationship between the Ministry of Finance and the Office of the Accountant General in terms of accountability, in terms of reporting to whom?
I'm not sure, but I think the Accountant General reports to the Minister of Finance. Okay. And as we said, the Accountant General collects and disburses. So it manages the collection and the disbursement of the government fund. So the Minister of Finance is just to do with the policy. Okay, we have done that. But when you come to real disbursement, you go to the Accountant General Office. When you come to collection, the Accountant General Office does that. So that's basically their relationship.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, Doctor, how could this level of alleged fraud have happened without the knowledge, or without, alarm being raised by, because we've seen this kind of things before for big mega corruption cases like this. We remember that during when the former emir of Kano, Alhaji Sanusi, when he was the governor of Central Bank, he raised alarm about some funds that were missing in NNPC and so on, because the documentation, one way or another, find its way to the CBN. So they can look at the documentation and see that certain things were not, didn't really add up, right? So we expect that if the Office of the Accountant General reports to the Ministry of Finance, there must be some sort of documentation as well, isn't it? So it should be able to, because the 80 billion naira hole is difficult to fill, or difficult to paper over. So what has been the role or lack of the Ministry of Finance in all of this?
This brings to bear at the level of supervisory role of even the National Assembly has got to
something like this.
Of finance. Because truly, if that money was appropriated for in the budget, I agree totally that it has been going on over the years, where there's actually that particular money assigned to or ascribed to from any of the ministry or government agency. If that should be the case, does it mean that the oversight that was a function that was supposed to be performed by check and balances in the system, which of course improved the National Assembly, could have checked and say, this money was meant to produce this cap. Let us go and see that cap, has it been produced?
Yes.
If it has not been produced, why? Then if is it that the money was not provided for, then you start asking questions. And so that is where the Ministry of Finance will be asked, this particular money you said you already appropriated, we didn't see the work that was said to be done. What happened? Oh, let us find out. Did the Accountant General of the Federation report that that particular money was disbursed? Who was it disbursed to? Then you start looking at the contract and looking at the names of the companies that were then 1 plus 1 now add to 2. Who was given that particular contract to? And then you find out that the hands of probably, now in this particular case, the hands of the Accountant General of Federation is involved. So it's a network and chain. So I don't believe that the Accountant General of Federation, him alone, will have been able to take 80 billion naira. It's not possible.
Interesting. So that's Another angle, what about the suspension itself? Because the Minister of Finance says that they have suspended him and even added that without pay, and so. Was the suspension meant to enable, or what is the implication?
Well, it's a normal civil service rule.
Okay.
Whenever somebody is under investigation, normally is sent on suspension so that he will not interfere with the evidence. That's very important. So what the ministry or the minister did was quite appropriate. And I hope they will quickly go in, because as doctors said, it could have been beyond one person doing it. So the most important thing is for the investigation now to be fast, so that others who could be still there and may tamper with evidence could be fished out and similarly be suspended. I think.
Interesting. So, but this leads us to what happens. It's one thing to announce to Nigeria and the rest of the world that you have nabbed, you have detained the Accountant General of Federation on account of corruption of this scale. It's another thing for the case to actually, end up where Nigerians will expect to end up, or in most cases end up to just as another, case. So, what are your expectations as somebody who has been in the political system also about this particular EFCC, particularly this new EFCC? Are they going to use this as an example to make a statement, or is it just more of the same that we're used to seeing?
Well, I can tell you right now, a lot of people are busy trying to work out what really happened within the system itself. In fact, you may be amazed that some people have already jet out of this country this night or find another way of getting out of this country. I'm telling you, a lot of people
because of their connections,
of course, with that particular issue, just to safeguard their self and their lives, they will have run out of the country.
Yes.
But also, some of us who are in the political scene will also look at it that this is political time. This is electioneering time. Don't be surprised that probably some of us can, in politics, you think ahead. Like I say, this humongous sum of money must have been used gradually to be brought out to be used for the political situation in 2023, using the Accountant General of Federation office. Because things like this, plenty of it are happening. Even some of the money that you have already collected back from the federal, from people who have stolen this particular country being kept in the central bank have been stolen and unaccounted for. So now, what one will expect is that I know that EFCC tried to do the best it can in terms of thorough investigation. It is good for them to do a thorough investigation. How they have raised the alarm now and showed their competency in regard to how they must have had some documents in their hand before they could execute the arrest. And so therefore, those documents should be kept and be confirmed in such a way it can be used to prosecute. If there are any contradictory action on this matter, this will completely seal, put in the coffin, nailed everything about anti-corruption war in Nigeria.
Interesting. Thank you. So that's a very significant point that he raised, which we'll have to, explore for a minute. But maybe we take a short break. When we return, we continue. So far, we've been talking about the allegations of fraud worth 80 billion naira against the Accountant General of Federation, Ahmad Idris. When we return, we'll continue with the discussion. Stay with us. Welcome back. This is Daily Politics on Trust TV, and we're discussing the implications of the allegations of fraud worth 80 billion naira against the former, the suspended Accountant General of the Federation, Ahmed Idris. As I was saying, as a former editor, you see many different corruption cases that end up just forgotten. You know, in Nigeria we have cases of fuel subsidy cases. You know, we have the independent power project that was brought by the so where do we keep landing in these spaces where nothing happens and the case just
actually the Nigerians have even started going towards that, because what's going on the social media, which I saw, is already they have listed steps through which this case will go, and at the end of it, from the investigation out to Supreme Court, they have listed how it will go there and how it will be sorted out up to Supreme Court, and at the end of it, nothing will happen. But to me, I think we should have a benefit of, give a benefit of doubt to the new EFCC, because since the new EFCC chairman came in, this is one of his major cases. And what I discovered, again, I think we have moved from the past during Magu, when we accuse him of media trial. As much as possible, they do their thing quietly. So I think we should have the confidence, or give him a benefit of the EFCC a benefit of doubt, that this case will go through up to the end. Now, there are two issues here. One is the fact that over time, what Nigerians have discovered is that sometimes EFCC doesn't do its job thoroughly before announcing and taking the suspects to the court. At the end of it, the case crashes. Sometimes they go in with 100 charges against, and they could not prove all of them or any one of them. So at the end of the day, the guy goes scot-free. Again, it's also the duty, or that's what I was telling somebody on a platform, that look, it's also a duty for us as Nigerians not to just say, okay, we know how this case will end, because such things have happened before. But it's for us to set up a vanguard and follow these cases, because we can do it as citizens. You know, the NGOs, the political parties in the opposition, we should team up, and the human rights lawyers and all those kind of things, we should team up and see that, look, such cases, because it's our common wealth. Somebody is using an individual, if it is proven right. And over the years, people have died. Our children are at home simply because government said that there is no money to pay what ASU is demanding, all of those things. So it's also incumbent on us as Nigerians to make sure that we police the EFCC or whoever, the EFCC, the lawyers, the judges, so that this case gets fair hearing and justice is done.
Interesting. Thank you. But Dr. Sanko, it's like Malang Zongo is just giving you, as a member of as former chairman, and still a member of the intra-party advisory council. So is there a role for you, a union of more or less the opposition parties in the country, isn't it? Is there a role for you in this? It's based on his suggestion that citizen action and group and individual action is necessary to sustain pressure on the system to get to the bottom of this, so that justice is served in the end. Yes.
That is why you now put a question mark on our judicial system as regard to what is the limit and what you can do. For us, the advocacy that we are doing already is part of this particular effort, informing the people and putting the pressure on the government and the agencies to do. And when they are doing good, we keep on appreciating them to encourage them to do more. In the case of probably when the thing has not been able to reach a crescendo that you are satisfied, you may attempt to say you want to go to court. But the next question they will ask you is that, what is your local standing on the matter? But the local standing will have been on an ordinary Nigerian that as a citizen, I have the right to challenge that particular situation.
Yes.
So therefore, so the judicial system will be able to help us in enforcing that the right thing is being done for the interest of the nation. But you see, for me, beyond imagination and thinking, this kind of huge, humongous source of money could have been a politically motivated interest that some people may have been not satisfied with probably the disbursement that this money was channeled to do. And so therefore, people who are in the opposition too can also spill the beans, and those within the circle too can also spill the beans. So if this investigation is thoroughly been done, which I expect the Efcc, which has the capacity to do, will do, there are a lot of information that you'll be surprised that has been swept under the carpet. They will only take the minimum way of dealing with it. But when you hear the story that comes out of it, you'll be so amazed. It's just like when we are being told that there are maybe our soldiers or security apparatus who are involved in issues of this banditry and all. A lot of us who believe in our Nigerian agencies, security agency, will never ever believe that any of them were involved. But over time, it has been proven that some people, not too many, but very few bad eggs among the military and police and all, have been conspiring against the state. And so also when it comes to issue of finances, there are people who are conspiring against the states too, to siphon this particular money, either in the interest of the government or political party in power, or individuals who are being in position of power in order to satisfy their cronies and all. Quite honestly, many of us as Nigerians do not know the exact amount of money that comes into the coffers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. How it's being spent, many of us don't know. What is being appropriated, many of us don't know. In fact, you'll be amazed to know that there are money being in this particular system that are not appropriated for entirely. And some people within the government, outside the government, are managing that particular resources for their own interest, including the present government may not know even some money being hidden somewhere. Because those who are in the system have kept it in a kind of a blindfolded way that we don't even know. And that's how you always want to find out that you don't even know how much crude oil that has been taken in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Up to now, you cannot account for it. That brings in the checking of the system holistically.
Thank you.
But then it takes a lot of will from the government of the day and those who are saddled with the responsibility. And I must say here, with all level of patriotism, these are the kind of things that give birth to the insecurity we are facing.
Interesting. Thank you. So that angle of giving birth to insecurity, we will have to come back to.
Yes,
that, you know, because it was a popular viewpoint on social media. People were saying that look at Nigeria, look at how the country is, you know, and some people are still not minding all of these things, are still trying to defraud the state of this large scale. But it also raises issues of financial and, professional and moral obligations that people have to their own country. First of all, as an accountant, you know, somebody cannot, the accountant general is not a political appointment, even though it is, you know, done by the president. You know, it's an appointment based on professionalism, based on profession. You know, I'm not an accountant. He's an accountant, right? Yes. But maybe you're not an accountant.
I'm not an accountant.
So thank you. So what this means is there is no way you and I can be an accountant general in Nigeria. So because it's based on profession, right? You know, and so on. So for someone who rises to that level, where he's given the #1 accountant in the country, you expect that they should have certain awareness in them to not participate in certain kinds of things, or at least to have some limit how far they go. Or is it that society has changed, or what?
That is the point. You see, unfortunately, you know, the system or the idea of service has greatly been lost you go into to work, even your private company. You know, there was somebody who told me that someone was running a company. Even in doing that, he was over invoicing the his own company just to survive. So it has to do with we need to change our psyche, our orientation. We need to be more patriotic as Nigerians, because now we look at it that if you are a teacher, you are nobody. Everybody wants to work NNPC, Central Bank, NCC, and so on and so forth. There are other jobs. So the focus, until as Nigerians, we change our focus and we'll continue. And mind you, this man is, I think, more than 60.
Yes.
So if at that level he's not that patriotic to serve the nation, what of his younger ones? What of those? Because he must have been doing it, as he said, that it must have been built within the system. He's not alone in doing it. So, and these are people who will live in the office, they take over from him, they will just continue. And the cycle continues. It continues and it continues, and I don't know really where this country will be at the end of it. So basically, unless we change, as Nigerians, change our psyche, be more patriotic, we will not be more of such things, or worse than such things may happen.
Thank you. So but Nigeria is in a situation where you're borrowing money to finance budgets, you're borrowing to finance subsidies, you're borrowing for all special projects and so on. And some of these monies that you borrow from foreign organizations, you know, or foreign governments, as the case may be, you know. And to the extent that even some of them are actually saying they will not give, China, for example, say they will not give Nigeria, borrow Nigeria any money again. And now this case, as it happened between yesterday and today, it has been widely reported across the world, you know. The New York Times, the BBC, Al Jazeera, all of them have reported this case. Does this have any impact on Nigeria's credit worthiness, or in other ways in Nigeria's foreign business relationships with other countries?
Oh, definitely it has a negative perception. But also, it gives room for those who internationally are involved in international crime and corruption. They find Nigeria as a very useful tool to use. So they keep on using that particular tool to perpetuate themselves into using Nigeria as a conduit pipe. You may be surprised that there are countries who may be willing to give Nigeria using their own organization. The syndicate of corruption works as a network.
Yes.
Some people may belong to a particular organization who give money as borrowing. Then they come to Nigeria and say, Suleiman, are you in charge of so daily trust? They write to us that you are looking for fund, and then we'll approve it. Then they'll come back and collect their share.
Yes.
It happens. You'll be amazed to know. And that is why we need very strong leaders. Leaders that will lead by example. Not only Mr. President, but all of these people that are working with him. And also, it gives back to the issue of how well do you take care of your staff. Someone once told me, I was leading an organization, he said, look, if your staff in your organization are not healthy, the organization is sick. But once the staff are healthy, the organization is healthy.
Interesting.
So therefore, here are officers, people in an organization, they cannot take care, the money that you pay them in their salary is not enough to take care of their families.
Are you suggesting that the 80 billion should go around?
No, what I'm trying to say is that we have to have a system that provides, that checkmates you from even giving opportunity for you to be involved in stealing. We must checkmate it. As a banker, for example, most bankers, at least bankers will tell you that they are happily or averagely paid to take care of their needs.
Okay.
So it becomes very difficult, even though it still perpetuates itself into the system. Very little of people will be involved in corruption tendency or stealing. Here we have a government. While the Accountant General is in the office, or staff of the Accountant General who are in the office, who are in charge of billions like what we have, then they will be the one that is disbursing money to National Assembly, collecting so much money as almost like a gift. And they see those people collecting this particular money year in, day out, every day. So then, if these people could be legitimizing their own way of stealing, what happens to us? So you've created a window of stealing. But where the leadership have shown clearly that they are taking legitimate money that is almost equivalent to the effort they are being put in. You yourself, who are being kept in the custody of that particular, you will be scared of getting yourself involved because you too have been given a commensurate amount.
Interesting.
Today, as Nigerians, while you are paying for diesel, there's no lights. You are paying for diesel before maybe at 100 naira. Today is 700 naira. You are paying a bag of rice at probably 7,000 naira. Today it's about 30-something thousand naira. The school fees that you are paying for your children, you must be considering how to take care of them in a private school, while majority of them who are in position of power went to.
Thank you.
So what I'm trying to give you as a background is that we must check our basics as a people. Those who are leading us, have they been just and fair in terms of their leadership? Do they also dip their hands into the pocket of the collective wealth that belongs to you and I as an advantage because they are in position of power? So it gives room for those who are managing the resources to follow suit.
To follow suit.
These are some of the indices and the background check that we need to do as a people. And then we must get our people to be more productive. And I must say here, our youths are listening. Our youth are seeing what is happening. Those who we have neglected in the local government and all, they are seeing this thing and they are hearing it in the social media. So therefore, some of them have sworn that they don't mind, they will put their life in danger. Anybody that is passing from Kaduna to Abuja to all of them are thieves. I have been a victim. I visited a person, a friend of mine in his house. Then the next thing that happened was that people came in. While I was at the gate, they came in with 2 guns. One was looking like a Clint Eastwood gun, I remember very well, and the other one was looking like a James Bond gun. Whether they were rubber gun or so, they were put on my hand. I don't know the content, so of course I will be scared.
Yes.
I was lucky. Some of them know me, what I've been advocating in television. They now pushed me in, and then they tied me, and they kept me very close to the sink. And then one of them came and be whispering to me that don't worry, nothing will happen to me, that I am a good man, that they've been hearing about me. But all of these people that are living in this house, they've been chopping alone.
That's interesting. But quite alarming, isn't it?
They've been chopping alone.
Quite alarming. But the issues that he raised now, as a final question, just before we leave, Malin Zango, what does this say? What does this whole case say about the anti-corruption agenda of the current administration?
Yeah, I think it's very important the government goes back and do a deep search. It has just 1 year to go, but what's happening now puts a question mark on one of its cardinal programs, that's the anti-corruption. You begin to raise a question of what happens to the Code of Conduct Bureau, because as a public officer, Ahmed Idris was expected every 4 years to declare his asset. Now, he was appointed in 2015. 2019, he was reappointed. Did he declare his asset? If he has declared, was a verification done on the asset? Because it would have been shown. Because from what the Efcc said, that he was busy buying estate and it could then, these are things which are physical and many people will know. Because there's no way somebody will buy a house without the neighborhood knowing who is it. So I think this government needs to look at the institutions of anti-corruption institutions, not the EFCC, not the ICPC, because those are institutions which will grab somebody who has already committed the offense. We should look at how to stop this offense. Since this administration came in, set up a presidential committee on anti-corruption, but not much is known about the activities of that committee. So what legacy will this government leave at the end of the day? It's very important they go back and do a search and see what they can rescue between now and May 2023.
Thank you very much. Malam Yusuf Zango and also Dr. Tanko Yunusa. It's been interesting having this discussion with you, and we hope to invite you another time, again, maybe on another subject or something similar once again. Thank you also for staying with us, viewers. So far, we've been talking about the implications of the arrest and detention of the the Accountant General of the Federation over allegations of fraud worth 80 billion naira. This is where we draw the curtain on today's program. When we meet again tomorrow, we'll bring you another edition of Daily Politics on Trust TV. My name is Suleiman Suleiman. Goodbye.